Hey, welcome back. My name is Al. Today I have a little bitty birdie sculpt inside a Zbrush, and this bird got into a little bit of a mess. Before we get there, if you'd like to support this channel, check out my game Centroid in the description below. Alright, so this little bird project didn't even start out as a bird project at all. I just found this 3D sculpt somebody did, and they had this really interesting like clay hand molded Play-doh type look. And the eyeball was just super interesting and cool. So that's what I'm making here. I basically just copied the eyeball because I wanted to use this style eyeball in many other characters that I make later down the road. You know, not all of them. This has a very specific style. And quite honestly, it kind of looks like a breast. So yeah, there's that. But trust me, it will be less booby eventually. Right now it definitely feels that way. But I've created an insert mesh brush with this eye, and now I'm gonna get to work on actually designing a character. So for this, I knew I wanted to have a little bird, and this is really just a whole bunch of exploration for me. Using clay buildup, I can carve out this kind of cavity where the eyes sit. I really wanted that kind of sunk in look. Same thing for the nose. And currently this looks like, I don't know, some creepy bonbon monster. And I go in many different directions with this character. But I used a lot of deformations, as you see here, which is really, really great. Those deformers in the gear, I can push, pull, bend, taper. We've done that several different times on this channel. Just to get some really quick, interesting results. So currently, I really dig the shape of the body itself. There's that crease right where the tail kind of swoops back. I'm digging that. I did a really easy thing for the feathers. Turned out great, right? I just masked off some areas, inverted the mask, and literally just used move topological to pull those down. So it's kind of cheating, but you know, who cares? I mean, not cheating, but I really could have went and added a lot more detail. I love the move elastic brush. You saw there that it was, you know, just really getting this kind of caricature shapes, push, pull. I push the body in. A lot of fun. After I get a basic idea, I like to every now and then use the move elastic brush just to see if I could get some better or different, more exaggerated, you know, proportions, things like that. At this point, I'm dropping in another insert mesh brush, and I just have this capsule that I've dropped in because I really want to give him these, like, I don't know, these nasty bags under his eyes. Like, he has spent way too much time staying up late, watching those baby chicks or something. He did not have enough coffee. And eventually you'll see those raccoon eyes just increase even more. Don't know what I was thinking with this beak. It's like, I'm looking at it now and I'm really glad I changed it because it's really bad. I was kind of going for, you know, more of like a pigeon. Kind of has this, I don't even know what it is, that little knob on the top of their nose there. No idea. It did not turn out well. Still looks really, really bad. That's all right. So dropped in another insert mesh brush. This is that torus or that ring, whatever they call it in ZBrush. I use so many softwares. I get them all mixed up. Blender and Maya and ZBrush and everything else that I use. I'm dropping in another capsule. These capsules are really, really nice. You can also just make a capsule. A lot of times I'll do that. I'll take a sphere, use the deformer, and extend. Not that you needed my visual here to see the extension, but you get the point. But I wanted these really knobby, thin, you know, bird legs. And yeah, using the taper, playing with some shapes. I don't really stick with the taper. I have an idea in my head and I'm just trying to implement. I'm also trying to pay attention to overall proportions. So currently he's got this kind of a larger body, smaller legs, obviously, as a bird. Then I want those toes to really be spread out, taking that weight. That's looking pretty good. Eventually I can combine these subtools in my tool palette. I can combine these subtools, make them into one leg, then I can dive in and do some sculpting on there. And until that time, it's just playing with the proportions, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. And that's one of the beauties of either using Z-spheres. Z-spheres are great. I did not use Z-spheres here. We're just doing different chunks instead of working from one object. But the whole leg is separate, which is very nice. So here, I don't really know why. I wanted webbed feet, sort of, which would have fit with our boob eye. You know, if I were making a blue-footed booby or something. That's enough of the boob jokes. The eye, I really like the eye. But just have something in between the toes, just a little bit, so straight away from the duck-like. And here, when I was smoothing, just some happy accidents happened, and that knee really just kind of formed itself. And I left it and just kind of refined it from there. Same thing with the feet, you know, I knew I wanted these little bulges at the ends of the toes, get that cool style, and it's working really well. With masking, I can easily just mask, use that transpose tool. Man, I remember back in the day, years ago, before the gizmo, we'll call that BG, before gizmo, it was just the transpose line. I mean, I like it because I used it for so long. I remember so many people just whining and moaning about that thing, and don't get me wrong, the gizmo is definitely handy. But for masking and posing, transpose line's where it's at. So you can just hit the little button up there by Sculptris Pro, turn off your gizmo to get that transpose line back. There's a learning curve, but super helpful. I'm sure most of you Zbrush users know that. As you can see, I have traded out my beak. I redid the beak, adjusting the proportions, just playing around with ideas. This whole character was just exploration. Please, 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 don't be afraid to break your sculpt. You're not gonna break it if you do proper file management and saving. So saving iterations. At this point, I have saved this sculpt probably 3, if not 4, 5, 6 times. Just because if I screw up, I can always go back. So I'm making big changes to the beak, like I changed it entirely. I changed the face a little bit. One of the best pieces of advice that I try to stick with, not always, was that if your first reaction to something is like, ugh, you know, let's just move on, try something new. So I knew that beak, right when I made it that original way, it was like that, ugh, what is this? I didn't like do a whole bunch of fumbling. I just moved on to another part, and I knew I was going to change it later. I ended up changing it. The reason for that is, what if somebody else, that could be their reaction too. So if you're trying to create something that's appealing, and not that I created this for anybody, but just that idea of it could be somebody else's reaction, which means I probably have blinders on and it probably sucks, and it did. This beak is much better. Not done, but better. Now, I was digging these little bird arms. Like, I made them, obviously working in Symmetry right now, but I used that bend arc tool. I think it's bend arc. No, it's the bend curve tool. So bend curve, because it gives me the points, and then I can just, you know, kind of like a lattice, just push, pull, bend, get whatever I want. And at this point, when his arms were bent like this, I knew this bird needed some attitude. It didn't really have a whole lot of character until I put those arms in there. It's arms on the hips kind of feel. And this bird, I really wanted to have very subtle folds of skin around the eyes. Obviously under the eyes, those are very exaggerated, but around the beak, things like that. Just these very subtle, like I said, folds of skin. Right now, the character is really starting to take shape, and I was playing with my poly groups, and I don't really know why. I made lots of mistakes in this, just fumbling around like, what are you doing, man? But I can split those arms, so I'm no longer going to be using Symmetry, and I want to get a different pose. What's interesting is some people like to just sculpt in a T-pose, and that's awesome, and I do that a lot of times, but I really wanted to push this character and see where it could go, so I just start posing the face even. I broke Symmetry, posing the face with that Move Elastic. I cannot tell you how awesome Move Elastic is. And right there with the masking, with the transpose line, I was just fumbling around because I knew that if you pulled it a certain way or held a certain button, held your right arm in the air and your left finger up or something, it would like mask a certain way. That's what was going on. I was just fumbling around. Should have edited that out, but you know, I did not. So once again, exploring different eye shapes, using Move Elastic, push, pull, stretch, pinch, whatever I want. It is a fantastic brush. It's one of my favorites. And I'm doing that with the eyes, brows, all kinds of stuff. There's more of that selection chaos. So instead, I don't know why I did this. I think everything is one object. That's what it was. So the eyes, the little eye fat, I think we'll call it eye fat. The pupil, I think it's all one subtool. I didn't want to split because I wanted to practice, you know, selecting polygroups, selecting like masking this way. I didn't look anything up. Just like, oh yeah, I forgot you could do that. Let's fumble around, see what I can make happen. So I'm just fumbling around, trying to figure out what kind of emotions I want this bird to have. So the arms led me here. The eyes are slowly taking shape. And since I broke Symmetry, already he's so much less robotic. He's got so much more character. So I would challenge you, once you get to a good place, break Symmetry. Definitely break it. You know, the last 9 or the last 10% of your sculpt. You, I'm not afraid, but there was definitely a point in time when I was like afraid to work out of Symmetry, right? It's a scary thing when you break Symmetry. But I promise you, it's worth it. It will be worth it once you learn how to do that. A lot of my sculpts, not a lot, some of my sculpts, I like to not use Symmetry at all, and that's an adventure. As you can see here, I have reverted because I didn't like where it was going. So I kept this in here just to show you, hey, I screw up, I don't like it, and I had many different saves. So I was not afraid to try new things with this character. You're not going to break it beyond repair unless you only have one save file. Don't do that. I tell my students all the time, hey, save early, save often. Save in iterations, I never use the Zbrush autosave. I just don't count on it, don't use it, don't like it. Same thing with most software. It has saved my butt in a pinch, but just get in the habit of saving your work. So at this point, still really just fiddling with the shapes with the eyes. I'm gonna beef up the eye fat. We're gonna call that the eye fat. Really accentuate that. Just using the inflate brush, going back and forth. Move elastic, as well as move topological. Get what I want. Oh, and right there, I had Symmetry on when I needed it off. So there's another mistake in this wonderful video. If you are still listening to me ramble on about this sculpt, thank you. It really means a lot, you joining on this little journey with me. Let me know in the comments below what you think I should sculpt next, what would be helpful. Also, is this better? This is kind of like unedited, just talking throughout the sculpt. This is really just a test. This is not a tutorial, as you can tell. Just giving you my thoughts behind my sculpt. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you like this form or if you would have preferred me to. All right, let's do much slower. Let's more edited, right? Take out the ums and the coughs and the and all of that funny stuff. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so using that damn standard, hitting in some of those creases on the skin. I am really liking where it's headed. Its eyes are a little funky, but I really wanted to have this like bug-eyed feel. And this was super interesting to me. Playing with these eye shapes. You can see how long I spent on the eyes. You know, they say eyes are like the window to the soul. Same thing, a similar thing with your characters. If you get the eyes wrong, then you know the whole sculpt could just feel off or broken. And this whole sculpt started with the eyes, so I really wanted the focus to be on the eyes. On the bird's left-hand side, playing with that eyelid. Still, it's real funky. Really should have edited some of this out. What the heck did I do here? Oh, I screwed up again. I did not like it. That is funny. I forgot this was in there. I did this sculpt way back in, yeah, way back in like January or February. Yeah, okay. So now we're back in business. I'm at an old revert. Let's try this again. I like where this is headed and going. It's time to move on from the eyes. At some point, you got to stop fiddling. That's what I did there. I have posed the arm, and this was super awesome. Just like rotated the arm up, and I was like, oh shoot, like right under the chin. It was really awesome. I think I ended up switching the arms. Yeah. Now it's his right arm that I have. Kind of thinking, the thought-provoking, but I just fiddled back and forth. Which one's better? This is where like looking in a mirror, always a good thing. So if I am thinking, I'd have my hand on my chin or something like that. Eventually this bird's gonna bend over, so I literally got up from my chair, looked at myself in the mirror, tilted my head, see what feels natural. It's amazing what you don't remember. Like, right, if I'm thinking with my right hand, is my head turned to the right, or is it turned to the left, or is it turned at all? But at the end of the sculpt, I wanted him to be looking down. And you'll see that eventually. Using clay buildup, I think with that alpha 6, that's a good soft alpha. There's not a whole lot of cleanup involved, so it's a lot more clean than just the default. Whatever it is, the no alpha, or I guess it's the white square. So a lot less cleanup, which is nice. So I'm digging the pose so far. Things are going well. The eyes. And I'm just like playing around with the pupil, right? Because kind of bug-eyed all over the place. And this could have been done so much better. But I needed the pupils to be aimed right where I want them. So just getting them to look correct. And now I put that other hand up there. Wait a second. Is it better on this side? And I think I stick with this one. I'm not positive. I might change my mind again. With this foot, I'm just rotating up, using transpose to pose, mask and pose that leg again. And now I have this, whatever, that donut at the thigh that I can just shift and adjust really easily, which is super nice. Don't forget that when you're posing, it's going to mess up, right? You'll always have to do a little bit more sculpting, a little bit cleanup, definitely some smoothing. That's just a part of it, but it's a very quick pose inside of Zbrush. So if you notice right now, if I were to keep it right here, what would the problem be? Like, there's a good front shot. Side view looks pretty good, the front shot. This bird would fall over. So at this point, I am trying to figure out the center of gravity on a bird. So I look up reference, you know, probably a flamingo standing on one leg to see what it looks like. Because the center of gravity needs to be realistic. If it were how it was before, it just looks super, super wrong. And most people don't know why it's wrong. Like, even if you don't know anything about center of gravity, or you call yourself an artist, or you've never created art or anything like that, it's still, to the average Joe Schmo, will look wrong, even if they can't tell you what's wrong about it. This is very important. I'm just holding like shift, dragging that green box down as just a visual guide for me. It's kind of cutting the main mass of the character in half, getting an idea of where that center of gravity is. Very important when you're posing, to get that as close as possible. So at this point, this is a little bug that I've created, or I'm about to create. Now, I never use symmetry in multiple axes, unless it's like radial. But I turned on the X and the Z axis just so I could pull out some basic legs for this bug. And the whole idea behind this is that this bird has accidentally stepped on a bug, and this bottom half is stuck to the ground, and it's gonna be all mushy and gushy eventually. Using clay buildup and then just smoothing. Using move topological, push-pull these legs around, just trying to break the silhouette. And here's a good example of a problem. I'm so zoomed in and focused on the bug, I did not take time to zoom out until the end, and these legs that I'm making are just way too tiny. It's probably like accurate based on scale of the bird, but for like a sculpted piece, when I zoom out to see the whole bird, I can barely see these legs. So if I were doing this properly, I would have zoomed out, checked my silhouettes, checked just to see how well that little bug could be read. And turns out it can't be read at all. I also have some issues underneath, but I wasn't worried about it. That's that back face masking that I did not turn on. That's okay. So even from here, like, it's hard to see those bug legs. The bug is big enough, but those legs just super tiny. And what I wanted was the other half of the bug to be on the bottom of the foot. So instead of using snake hook and stretching stuff over there, that is a nightmare to try to do. Because what I'm creating here with these spheres is just this, think like bubble gum stuck to your shoe, and then it's just stretched, and it's stretched to different pieces, kind of like a spider web. But if I were just to stretch this out from the sphere, it sucks so bad. I've tried it, I hate it. Z-sphere is the way to go every single time if you were trying to create something like this. Because I can make changes. If it doesn't look right, I can just change these spheres around no problem. It's not like grabbing a piece of the mesh and then trying to push and pull. Things get really sloppy very quickly. So using Z-spheres, if I press A on the keyboard, I'm able to see just like a preview of what that's going to look like. Yeah, so I'm just getting some basic Z-spheres in there and just kind of intersecting them, because when I press A, it's going to give me an example, like I said, and it's also going to dynamesh these in the end result. I'm going to drop in just a half sphere. I was going to do like a shell up here of the bug, like a little ladybug head. I strayed away from that and just kind of used that as the gobbledygook blood and guts of the bug up here. So I can just push pull, use snake hook with Sculptures Pro mode, change that around, do whatever I wish, dynamesh when needed, and just trying to get some different alphas, get some different shapes, some lumps in this blood and the guts. At this point, I have made this stuff adaptive skin. I think I screwed up. I was sculpting on the preview mode, so I confirmed the adaptive skin, and now I can just go to town sculpting. Using inflate, pushing, pulling. I use the damn standard brush holding Alt to do the opposite, just to make some of these, I don't know, striations, give it a little bit of texture, or feel that it's like being tugged in the direction of the foot. And I think it turned out really great. That gobbledygook, lots of nastiness, kind of looks like Spider-Man's web or something. Now this portion was super easy. Using Clip Curve, I think it's Alt and spacebar. I know, I just tap Alt. I can make these jagged lines. This was just a beetle that he stepped on. So those are one of the mandibles that are just kind of dangling there. Probably should have done like other bug parts, but that's all right. Hey, once again, our time dwindles and comes to an end. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you felt like I earned it, hit that subscribe button, like, share, all that good stuff. I will catch you next time.